Ooh, welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon. 90% of my YouTube views come from quarterback trade rumors, Perna. That's just the sad state of the world we live in. But that doesn't mean we won't see some big QB changes this offseason. The 2021 quarterback offseason was like foreplay, warming us up for what could actually be the craziest quarterback offseason ever. The teams that could be trading, acquiring, swapping, or drafting quarterbacks include the Broncos, Seahawks, Packers, Texans, Saints, Giants, Browns, Raiders, Dolphins, football team, Panthers, and again, please God, please my Broncos. Today, let's look at all the QBs who could be on the move. That's good sports. Go ahead, subscribe to this YouTube channel, but only if you love football videos on YouTube. And if you want to support this channel, you can check out my coffee, BenchwarmerBrew.com. We've got 3 blends, Urinating Trees blend, my blend, and 5 Points blend. The cheapest way to get my coffee is through the subscription service. That saves you 25% off because shipping is a bitch. But check it out, BenchwarmerBrew.com. I'll start by naming one quarterback who will not be on the move, and that is Kirk Cousins. Not a team on earth wants to pay his $45 million salary in 2022, probably including the Vikings. But the Vikings were the only team dumb enough to give him that much money. His dead cap hit is also $45 million, so he ain't going anywhere. Then I've got Derek Carr. For whatever reason, there are rumblings of Derek Carr trade rumors every offseason. I don't even think this haircut would be silly enough to trade Derek Carr. Unless the haircut does not plan to extend Carr in 2022. Carr will be in the final year of his contract, and the Raiders really are a wild card of an organization. They will be searching for a new head coach this offseason, and Carr may very well entice a head coach to join the Raiders. Or a new head coach may want a different option at the QB position. We don't know. There are 2 teams that make sense to me for Derek Carr. The Panthers and the Saints. I'd honestly like to see Carr in New Orleans, where he will have a great defense for the first time in his career and touchdowns to go with his 4,000 plus passing yards. Carolina would have to trade Sam Darnold to make financial room for Carr, which is unlikely. But give Carr a healthy Christian McCaffrey and the defense we saw in the first half of 2021, and he's a huge upgrade over Sam Darnold. Then I've got Baker Mayfield. I don't know if there would be much interest in Mayfield on the NFL trade market. No quarterback in recent memory may have cost himself more guaranteed money than Baker Mayfield by not getting a contract extension done last offseason, when his value was the highest. Baker is really hard to evaluate considering he's played with a torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder for most of the season. In addition to his teammates' fathers, feels like Browns fans have also turned on Baker. Maybe the Browns and Raiders should just swap quarterbacks at this point. Now, Baker is not going to elevate an offense, but if you have a reliable run game and a smart offensive coach like Baker currently does, we know who he is. We kind of know what his ceiling is. 3,500 to 3,800 passing yards, 25 to 30 touchdowns, and around 10 picks on a good season. Number 7, Deshaun Watson. And the numbers mean nothing. I'm just going through a list here. I'll spend 22 years hating myself, but if his legal mess is cleaned up, he's easily the best quarterback on this list, not named Aaron Rodgers, and his big advantage next to being humbled into oblivion may be his age. The crazy part of the Deshaun Watson story is that he wanted out of Houston before the 22 lawsuits were filed against him. He was forcing his way out of Houston and would have been the savior of any franchise that executed that trade had those 22 things not happened. Remember, the Texans refused to acknowledge his displeasure and trade him. That's obviously what any team would do with a quarterback as talented as Deshaun Watson while not knowing about what was to come. The last time Watson played in 2020, he finished with 4,823 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions while completing 70% of his passes. 40% of those completions occurred while he was running for his damn life. Probably. He did that all while Bill O'Brien was trying to sabotage the entire organization. I really do not know what will happen here with Watson. It was reported a decision or resolution with the lawsuits could occur in January. Even if they are cleared up or settled, or however you want to phrase it, making them go away, the amount of teams willing to risk their reputation by signing Watson is probably greater than you think. Just win, baby! His most likely landing spot still is Miami. Watson, if or when he's dealt to Miami, would make Tua a quarterback that the Dolphins then would probably trade, and I'm not sold that that's a trade to Houston, so if Watson goes to Miami, it really opens up this entire list. Number 6, I've got Matt Ryan, Matty Ice. Aside from rookie, tight end Kyle Pitts, Ryan has 0 weapons on offense, like Clint Eastwood at the end of Gran Torino. Despite losing Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, Ryan is putting up decent numbers, but definitely not Matt Ryan-like stats this season. His yards per attempt are down, yards per game are down, and his touchdown percentage has fallen as well in year 14. You can choose to believe that this is the new Matt Ryan, a declining former MVP, or this is the product of a lackluster Falcons offense that hasn't put him in a position to succeed. Not to mention an offensive line bottom 10 in pass blocking. Either way, whoever gets Matt Ryan next year is getting a 37-year-old quarterback. Could still be the Falcons. You know who likes old quarterbacks though? The Pittsburgh Steelers, who are one of the rumored landing spots for Matt Ryan. The Steelers have talent at just about every position on offense, outside of the offensive line, of course. But I imagine that next to QB, line is priority number 1, and I think Ryan would actually be a good fit with the Steelers. My dark horse candidate to land Matt Ryan? The Washington football team. Matt Ryan seems like a really, really nice guy, which is why my gut says he could follow in Alex Smith and Ryan Fitzmagic's footsteps and land in hell, where he will have his career ended by injury. Number 5, I've got Jimmy Garoppolo. It's pretty easy to see why Jimmy G won't be on the 49ers next season. His head coach, Kyle Shanahan, said so. We have no idea if the guy behind him was worth trading up to number 3 overall, but there's only one way to find out, and that doesn't involve starting Garoppolo in 2022. Jimmy G was pretty much red hot. I mean, he always is, but I'm talking about in terms of performance. But that came crashing down against the Titans. And now he has a injured thumb, which will thrust Trey Lance into the starting role. But if you step back and look at Garoppolo's numbers this season, it's really not bad. 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. He's averaging 8.5 yards per attempt, which is good for second in the league behind Joe Burrow. A lot of that is the system, but he's been efficient when they ask him to throw the ball. Best possible fits for Jimmy? Well, I'd pair Jimmy G with a rookie quarterback if the Broncos can't figure out a way to land Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. Hell, Jimmy G should go back to New England because I think he's actually better than Mac Jones right now. Here's the thing, Garoppolo will be worse no matter where he goes unless it is the Patriots because he's getting some of the best offensive coaching in the NFL right now, in addition to an incredible run game and the best tight end on earth. No, not his, George Kittle. Number 4, I've got Tyler Huntley. Why will Tyler Huntley get traded? Well, he might not, but there's going to be demand for a quarterback that's played well in limited appearances, and the Ravens probably feel like their system trumps any one backup quarterback for Lamar. Performance-wise, Tyler Huntley has basically gotten better every time he's taken the field. He's found a way to win despite mediocre numbers in Chicago. He completed at least 70% of his passes in all 3 of his starts this season and took care of the ball in back-to-back performances against the Browns and the Packers, 2 tough defenses for a guy in his first few NFL starts. He also rushed for 40, 45, and 73 yards in those 3 games. Best possible fits for Huntley? Well, I mentioned the Browns earlier, and I think that might be an ideal fit. But given that the Ravens hold his rights, I don't think there's any scenario where Huntley is traded within the division, whether that's to Cleveland or Pittsburgh, a couple places where he might fit in pretty well. Ultimately, like a couple of the players on this list, I don't think anyone is going to hand Tyler Huntley a starting job, but he's intriguing. It's going to be a situation where he'll have to compete for the gig. Huntley's opportunity may depend entirely on whether or not Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers change teams. I like Huntley in Green Bay, but if Russ leaves Seattle, then I like Huntley's skill set with that offense. Matt Flynn 2.0, anyone? Worst case scenario, Seattle accidentally drafts the next Russell Wilson after paying Tyler Huntley. Or the Carolina Panthers, who could avoid drafting a QB and have a legit, honest competition with Sam Darnold. Actually, the Panthers make a ton of sense for Huntley. Number 3, Gardner Minshew. Now, why he might be traded? Well, the emergence of Jalen Hurts as a starting caliber quarterback has essentially rendered Minshew expendable for the 2nd offseason in a row. How a man with the nicknames Mustache or the Jockstrap King could be expendable is beyond me. Performance-wise, Gardner Minshew has only appeared in 2 games this season, and he's been pretty much as perfect as you can get. 22 for 27, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and 9.4 yards per attempt. Granted, those 2 appearances came against the Lions and the Jets. Not exactly the stiffest defenses one might encounter. In his 2 seasons in Jacksonville, he threw 5 fewer picks than Trevor Lawrence has already in his rookie year. And in just 9 games in 2020, he threw 16 touchdowns, 7 more than T-Law has in 15 starts. Best possible fits for Minshew? I don't know, anyone who wants to win a Super Bowl. I'm scared of what might result if you pair up Dan Campbell in Detroit with Gardner Minshew. They'll either fit together hand in glove, or their dual alpha energies will collide and create a supernova in the Lions locker room, where the Lions are swallowed whole by their own kneecaps and we never see or hear from them again. But I think the Lions will stick with Goff and draft a QB, and Minshew will end up challenging for a starting or backup spot somewhere like Minnesota, who could use some charisma at the position. Number 2, Russell Wilson. It feels like the Russell Wilson era has just about run its course in Seattle. There's obviously a better than not chance that Wilson stays a Seahawk, but I don't see any scenario where Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are back in 2022. Something has got to change there, and I don't think it's Russ's fault or Pete's fault. Sometimes you just gotta move on to succeed. And I think Wilson's performance over the last season and a half actually creates a little bit of cause for concern going forward. Things started to go a little bit downhill back in week 8 against the Bills in 2020. Obviously, Wilson's numbers haven't been bad, but they're not what we've become accustomed to seeing from Wilson and the Seahawks. As a team, they've gone just 10-12 with Russ under center since that Buffalo Bills game that basically ended the let Russ cook era. I bring up the Bills game from 2020 because I think a lot of people believe that Russ started to play less than perfect after his finger injury and after he returned from that finger injury too soon. We went from hashtag let Russ cook to hashtag too soon. After that Bills game in 2020, Russ basically played 3 good games that season in wins against the Cardinals, which was respectable, but then he only beat Philly, who was mid-collapse, and the Jets. After those games, he never had a QB rating above 100 until this season began, and then lost to the Rams in the playoffs, completing just 40% of his passes. Best possible fits for Russ? Obviously, I'm going to mention the Broncos here, but I do think Russell Wilson would welcome a trade to the New York Giants, where you'd have Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Evan Ingram, and just, another bad offensive line in front of him. If the Giants' skill players can stay healthy, they do have a decent defense, and that would be an attractive destination for a QB of Russ's stature. But I also would not rule out the Saints. Great defense, solid line when healthy, and Sean Payton, with the healthy Drew Brees, were throwing the ball on average 650 times a season, about 100 more attempts than Russ had in 2020, one of his season highs for attempts. And number 1, Aaron, the BDP of BDP QBs, Rodgers, because the Packers screwed up almost 2 years ago and traded up to draft Jordan Love in the first round of the draft. That's why the likely 2-time reigning MVP will be traded away from a team that's won at least 12 games and won the NFC North in each of the last 3 seasons. I don't need to tell you this, but Aaron Rodgers' performance is immaculate. He's Aaron Rodgers. It's all very simple when it comes to Rodgers. He throws a shit ton of touchdowns and rarely ever throws interceptions. He literally has the best TD to interception ratio in NFL history. Russ Wilson is third, by the way. Rodgers is a cyborg when it comes to playing quarterback. 33 touchdowns, 4 picks, and if you take away that weird Saints game to start the season, he's been as perfect as you can get. His numbers should astonish us, but we've gotten too used to these kinds of seasons that it doesn't get as much attention as it should. He's made the incredible seem routine, a true sign of a great. Aaron Rodgers' weaknesses? Public relations, and he may well just retire at the end of the season. Best possible fits? Denver. Peter King reported that the Broncos could hire Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett to attract Aaron Rodgers and possibly even Devontae Adams. I don't want to entertain any other scenarios, but I suppose Cleveland makes a lot of sense, as does Pittsburgh. Really, anywhere makes sense for Aaron Rodgers because I think he's an upgrade over every other quarterback in the league. Seriously, I'd bet Andy Reid would trade Mahomes for Rodgers straight up. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Those are the quarterbacks, I believe, who could be on the move this offseason. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you want to watch another one of my dumb videos, click the video on the screen right now. Click it or tick it.